Here's my audio. Yep. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yes, we can. All right. And then boom. Okay. We are live, live, live. Thank you guys for showing up. I see you, Sanctismus, Ilian Mars, SWAT Cat, and I see another 9 people in the chat. Also, thank you guys for showing up. This is Dungeoneers Pack Live, a weekly D&D almost podcast, pretty much live stream where I talk about the latest things going on for D&D 5th edition. My name is Josh. Thank you guys for watching. What's going on, Underleveled? What's going on? This week I'm joined by Ukulele Bard, a DMsGuild designer who took the Strixhaven subclass design and ported it over into the realm of Eberron in the supplement Academies of Eberron. So we're going to be going in and checking out, revisiting the design of Mages of Strixhaven UA since the book comes out Tuesday, and discuss with Ukulele about his design process and how he converted this general idea of these classes into his own design, and also answer your guys' questions regarding the design and kind of give a quick look over what of Mages of Strixhaven has, and also since our friend over at Fry Minis, Eric, has provided all the information for that book so far with all the player options. We're gonna probably talk a little bit about that too, and see how that kind of converted over into pretty much converted into the final book. So if you guys have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat. I'll go ahead and ask them, and I also have my questions as well. Again, finally introducing. Thank you, Ukulele Bard. Thank you, man, for joining in this Sunday.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I think they got the audio.
Okay.
You guys can hear. What's going on, Philip? What's going on, Robert? Thank you guys for joining in. Yes, if you want to pick up Academies of Eberron, the link is in the description below, and you can go ahead and go and support.
And there's a sequel that's going to be out. I wanted to have it out on the 7th. I did not anticipate getting like incredibly sick and not being able to focus for more than 5 minutes on anything.
Oh man,
among other things.
I know how that feels.
I'm gonna try to have this out. I'm gonna try having it out by the end of the week or so.
Sweet, sweet, sweet. Yeah, and then sorry, this is a weird angle I'm going in right now. I've been nursing a back injury. This is like the first kind of like actual weekend I can actually stand up comfortably. So, so sorry about the weird angle. I'll try to get it. I have my standing desk going up right now. So we're gonna start off with the first question that I had for you, man. So when you were looking at the Strixhaven classes, in your opinion, what were the big benefits you saw with the actual design and the potential? And what did it? How much did that actually influence you on Academies of Eberron?
Oh, that's a tough one. Okay, so going into this, I had zero connection with Strixhaven because I do not play Magic. I played maybe one game back in 2013 and decided, oh, okay, this is like Yu-Gi-Oh with a bigger learning curve. I'm good.
Yeah.
That was like around the time when I was already like getting like super duper falling out of Yu-Gi-Oh as well, because it's like they were introducing more and more mechanics, and I was just getting like I was becoming a grumpy old man. Like, back in my day, we didn't have synchro. Anyways,
my brother knows all about
yeah,
that. Yeah, he's a big Yu-Gi-Oh player.
that probably wasn't 2013. I don't remember when. That was probably 2009. I don't know. Anyways, so yeah, I don't know Magic. Don't really have any plans to, because I don't like card games that much anymore. But
I don't blame you, man.
Setting,
it saves your wallet. I will tell you that.
Yes, it's expensive for sure. Anyways, so my only knowledge of like Strixhaven was like just through osmosis of like other people talking about it, like, oh, I wonder how Silverquill would be adapted or whatever. And I saw this as a really interesting opportunity for classes that don't feel like they should have any specific strong ties to any one class. Because there's certain like ideas that could like reasonably map onto basically any spellcasting class, and it's like, is there any specific reason why this has to be a druid? Like,
yeah, Yeah,
It helps. It helps when there's like a really strong thematic reason for them to be, but when there's concepts that are like when there's concepts that are very very generalist, then like sometimes it could be interesting to just say, hey, this is the spellcaster that enjoys, I don't know, searching for things, the Hufflepuff class or whatever.
yeah.
Uh,
I can see that, especially
um,
with what came out. Fizzbands, which just came out, and then dragons and a dragon type of subclass can fit into everything. That I can see this sort of design fitting with that also.
yeah, I'm very very let down with how little draconic options were in Fizzbands.
Yeah.
I didn't end up getting the book, and that's partially the reason, and also because I'm like trying reading other games
Oh
first and
goodness.
foremost for the most part. But rather than drowning in more piles of D&D books that I
Yeah.
skimmed through once and all that.
Yeah.
So like, so Fizzbands was like why is there not a dragon warlock? That's
Exactly.
like
Yeah.
the thing. That is the thing everybody wanted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Dragon Warlock, and then a possible, pretty much maybe alternate feats or alternate features for the like they did in Tasha's for all the other classes for the Draconic Sorcerer. That would have been actually a good place to stick that to.
yeah, that would be a great excuse to say, hey, here's an origin spell option for them. If they really felt like they were obligated to like nerf the draconic sorcerer in other ways, they could say, hey, you can take this feature which makes your AC 12 plus dex instead of 13 plus dex, and then here's spells.
His expanded spell
Just to
list and
get
everything.
the illusion, just to give like the illusion of like, oh hey, this is you're trading some power for this.
Yeah.
Or in this case, trading durability for spell versatility.
Uh, I 100% agree with that. Going back to the Strixhaven, one thing with the Academies of Eberron, I noticed, and I was talking to you about this a little bit before the stream. One thing that in that book that was vastly different from the Strix-Classes was that you and the other designers were at least conscious of baking in some of the features in that supplement to the actual core class, some of the core class abilities. So one of the examples is at least making sure that you had the subclass, which was the ghost, the Syrian ghost soldier's battle decoy feature, that it would not overlap with the bonus action use of bardic inspiration for the bard. Um, so
Oh yeah.
yeah, so looking at that design, how important was that to really to ensure that those subclass features were actually a bit highlighted with some of these broader or these, I mean, excuse me, class features were highlighted in these massive subclass, these broad subclasses.
It was actually one of those things that like people had varying opinions on the design team. Because I was very much in the school of thought where like these don't need to reference the class at all. Um, like for example, like say like champion fighter doesn't map onto the fighter in a way that like it doesn't specifically make your indomitable better. It doesn't make your action surge
Yeah,
better in particular. It just does extra stuff. Whether or not you think that stuff is good or not is a whole other conversation, but it just does other stuff. So I think like I was thinking like oh there doesn't need to be, but other people felt stronger about that, and I really respect being pushed back on that because there were times where it's like oh yeah, the was it the was the bard from Tasha's the one that creates living furniture.
oh, barter creation.
Creation, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, the level 6 feature lets them command an animated object with a bonus action, and they thought ahead and are like, oh yeah, this is kind of worthless if you want to actually use your back inspiration.
yeah,
So hey, just you can do both of those at the same time. And I think that's both like a little bit of power creep, but it also is just a very nice quality of life thing. So I try to be very wary of it. I don't want to say like as part of an attack you can also do this too often.
yeah,
I'm usually fine with like features that like key off of like instead of an attack. but like as part of the same bonus action sort of things are for the most part fine. So I'm less worried about those. I'm trying to think of any other examples. Oh yeah, the Edgewalker for Ranger and Paladin.
Yes.
Introducing a new resource for Rangers and Paladins is a bit shaky when they both have their own like spell casting and their own like spell slots.
Yeah.
But I think it ended up working pretty well in that like each one has their own specific resources they can expend to get additional dice. Like Paladins can use their Channel Divinity to get additional side eye.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to remember right now because the Edgewalker was it the reagent one?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, it was the Sonic one. Yeah, and I remember you in Destructive Boys Discord asking some of the asking opinions on the on some of these features too. So like it's finally me picking this supplement up and seeing like the final result was actually really really sweet. I liked how a lot of these just meshed out really really well. So
yeah.
So looking at the Strix-Classes now, obviously there's a big it's no secret that this was not a really well received UA. There's a reason why in the final print now we have feats, we have backgrounds for Strixhaven, and then we have additional spells. So in your opinion, what exactly? Why do you think this didn't resonate with a large portion of the player base?
Yeah, I called that from like the very beginning. As I was reading, I'm like, oh, this is probably the most interested I've been in a UA in a very, very, very long time, which means it's doomed to die.
Yeah, because
I can't have nice things.
Yeah.
So I think part of this is a lot of people were saying, oh, this is a good idea, but has anywhere between bad execution or could be better execution. I was in the could be better execution camp, and Wizards of the Coast is very much an all or nothing thing where if everybody doesn't adore something, they're like, oh shoot, we messed up. Throw it in the trash. Never look at it again. This concept is cursed. We can't have it. Burn the house that it was designed in.
Yeah,
they don't touch it ever again.
Yeah, where do we see that? We saw that with the Rune Scribe. Yeah.
Yeah.
We saw that with the old Rune Scribe, right? That old UA that was trying to bring in like prestige classes into the game.
Yeah. It was like the lesson wasn't like, oh, this is a bad time for prestige classes because people still aren't bored of the main classes yet. It was prestige classes are bad and stinky and we hate them. Never touch them. Shame on you.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Exactly, because that sort of design space is like it's newer, but and I agree with you. Wizards has this aversion that after something isn't adored, something just isn't received whatsoever, that they just kind of drop it when something like these Strix-Classes, as you've proven with the Academies of Eberron, like if you tweak it and you start actually playing with it, you can get some interesting things going on and actually give players a wider base of options.
Yeah, I don't think I did anything especially better than the UA design. At least in my opinion. I think because I think like Mackenzie de Armas is like clearly knows what she's doing and I think she deserves like a lot more credit than she's getting. But I did notice that like a lot of people were where am I going with this? Oh yeah, so like a lot of people liked a lot of these ideas in a vacuum, and they just wish that there was like a second pass, and they didn't have time.
Yeah.
They just straight up did not have time to perfect anything, and so they just went square one and just salvaged what they could.
Yeah.
And that's kind of that's a shame. Like,
yeah, I think what was a 6-month turnaround time, and then eventually we got what we have now, which is silvery barbs and extra, and and if they were going to go this route originally, as the assumption or as what they put out, and Jeremy Crawford made in a statement saying, no, we originally wanted to do this, but we wanted to try this. If they originally wanted to just do feats, backgrounds, and spells, from the get-go, I would have been more comfortable them just putting that out for the simple fact, because all the hubbub around silver barbs that's happening now, we would have been able to catch it and be like, hey, guys might need to fix this a little bit.
Yeah, more time in the oven is always preferable to less time, usually.
Yeah.
Obviously, exceptions apply where like you kind of get in your own head and it's like, oh, something that everybody agrees is good. Like sometimes everybody, if you simmer on it for too long, you start finding things you hate about it. And like that's just not productive.
Yeah.
If you keep polishing something until like it's perfectly perfect, then like you're never gonna ever release anything. But like this is kind of the opposite, where it's like, oh, they didn't even give this a chance.
Yeah, and I think the subclasses for that eventually printed in Van Richten's, they had more development time between final print and the release on the UA for public testing. And these, this is a new design space, and they gave it only 6 months. I was like, okay, well,
yeah,
those are super, super weird.
That's kind of setting it up. It really is setting it up to fail. That's a shame.
All right, let's.
Yeah, I didn't even think about like, yeah, that is extra short for a whole new concept.
Yeah, like let's see, Artificer finally seen print. It took a few years to finally we got something that was finally made it to print, and even then, like that took multiple passes. Pretty much, we dropped the Mystic after multiple passes that end up becoming, just Sonic subclasses because it worked better. I'm looking at the chat right now. Indestructible, what's going on, man? Fry Minis, Eric, what's going on? Draco Diabolus, what's going on? Indestructible said, Quandrix deserve better. By that, I mean the concept lore. I don't care about the concept of the math sorcerer needs to be a thing. And I 100% agree. I think there's a lot of unexplored concept space within that Strixhaven can inspire. Quandrix is one of those where they're a math wizard is a perfect
the math-born sorcerer.
Yeah. Yeah, because Clockwork doesn't necessarily fill that niche. I don't, personal opinion, mechanically cool, narratively kind of awkward. So I know I hyped it up a little bit.
It's a bit all.
Yeah.
It's a strange one for me. Yeah. I like the concept a lot. I think the execution could have been toned back,
Yeah.
5 or 6 notches.
Yeah, and for me, it's like I like what the mechanics are doing, and I'll be the first to admit too, because I can say this about the clerics for Tasha's. I was admittedly wrong about a bunch of them on their power scale. You can quote me on this, you can clip it too, but narratively they're boring, and but the Strixhavens on the other hand are a lot more interesting. Quandrix had the math. What's going on, Eric? Thank you for the $2 donations. Can we get some super chats going? Yes. Thank you. But as I was saying, like Strixhaven has a lot of interesting concepts that aren't necessarily filled in the game currently. Math Wizard, Lorehold has this sort of Indiana Jones, Golemancer sort of vibe going on with their ancient companion.
Yeah, there's actually my collaborator for the second Academies of Eberron actually made a mathematician wizard, if I recall correctly.
Oh, sweet.
She's I'm trying to remember what it's in. Crap. I feel like she's watching right now. Oh. So if she's in the chat, please link that. I don't remember what it's in. I think it's in the Long Saddle Gazetteer. I'm drawing a blank. And that reminds me. Have you ever listened to Be More Chill? It's a musical.
No. I will say I'm not a musical kind of person, unfortunately.
Oh, that's fair. But but there's a line that lives in my head whenever I think of the Quandrix sorcerer, and it's a literal supercomputer, and he's like, "I'm a supercomputer, Jeremy. I'm made of math."
Oh. Yeah, that's pretty much what Quandrix is. Being a MTG nerd and knowing a bit of the lore, that's pretty much what they are. They are these hyper focused, super logical, using algorithms and equations and just to cast spells or make their creatures grow bigger. Because there's this whole other. That's one of the things I know I sort of missed with the Quandrix that I noticed that they didn't actually include, because some of these subclasses hit on some of the flavor and then they had to kind of cut some of it out. Quandrix also has this whole thing about animals and improving them in some sort of logical way, and that was the only thing that was kind of missed with the Quandrix. But yeah, but it's right on. It's spot on what you said. What the Quandrix is. Let's see. Read back on the chat. Let's see. Eric says Josh is not a man of culture. Hey, I like music. I just don't watch musicals. Didn't grow up on musicals in my family. What it is.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah. All right. So
Not a man of culture.
yeah. Okay. So
there's also like a problem of like there being so many different kinds of math, like a geometry math.
Yeah, and that's
okay.
And that's kind of what they went, at least on the visuals, on a lot of the art for Quandrix. You see a lot of the geometry. There's only a few of them that do that have equations that are kind of floating in the air, but most of it is a lot of geometry because it's visually appealing.
Yeah, geometry is like probably the easiest concept to execute on because like changing the shape of spells feels like a natural thing, assuming you don't go too crazy with it. But then there's also the problem of like D&D being non-Euclidean in general. So like when you turn a circle into a square, a fireball's already a square even though it's a circle. Cool. So like it's strange.
Yeah. All right, and if you guys have any questions regarding specifically the UA or for anything for ukulele, just drop them in the chat. I want to dig into some of these actual some of these subclasses.
Sure.
Yeah, so Lorehold, we'll start with Lorehold. This one admittedly I was excited about just because in Magic, Lorehold is my two favorite colors when they're combined. It's red and white. The general idea behind Lorehold is that they are the college of study of pretty much humanities study, so philosophy, history, social sciences, etc. And they turned them into some sort of golomancer to kind of tie them to some of their art, which was to have them connect to some sort of spirit that takes the form of a statue. I thought was pretty neat, and it gave the wizard a pet subclass that they don't really have right now.
Yeah, I guess so. A lot of like Magic the Gathering people were expressed disappointment in like how this one was conveyed, because like from what you said before, like they're like the humanities one, and this kind of just portrays them as more like a history nerd.
Yeah,
which is cool in its own way, but like people were disappointed that there's like a trope of like the jock archetype being a Lorehold student and stuff like that. I don't know specifics, but like
because
there was some
Lorehold is very
disappointment
broad.
there.
Yeah, Lorehold's very broad, and I think that was kind of that's one thing I noticed overall the design with some of these subclasses. I think one of the big weaknesses for these subclasses, making them so broad, is that if you're going to put these really and nail them down into a specific subclass, multiple classes could have fit certain aspects of the specific college. So the what we got with the major Lorehold was more of we're going to tie you to the history aspect of it, but there's that whole Indiana Jones aspect of it too that would have probably fit really well with like any of the martial classes and give them access to magic too.
Yeah, that sounds like a perfect fit for like Rogue Ranger fighter.
Yeah.
So like it could be a matter of them not doing enough of these classes. So like having two variants, so Major Lorehold and Athlete of Lorehold or whatever the equivalent would be. I don't know. It's not perfect.
Yeah, and actually that highlights another thing. Obviously, all these subclasses in this design was heavily focused on spellcasters because it's Strixhaven. Do you think the fact that marshals were not included in this in some way also soured public opinion on this UA?
I mean, possibly, but also I'm not entirely sure what you were expecting.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're gonna have Strixhaven, like it's a magic school, there's kind of no way around it.
Yeah.
Obviously, like you could explain away like a fighter's powers as magic, like you could reflavor a fighter's action surge as them literally bending time.
Yeah. 100% agree.
Or
This is one of the criticism I'm seeing for the book with the current stuff that's going to be printed. Now is that, hey, there's no martial stuff, but it's like, well, it's a magic school.
I mean, yes, I agree. I agree on that end. Like, I don't know what you're expecting, but at the same time, it's like somebody could have said, "Hey, is a magic school really a thing that's healthy for the game right now?" And like,
Yeah.
when spellcasters keep getting more and more and more powerful, and like martials are still, I don't think martials are bad by any means.
I'm in the same
And
boat. I'm a martial main. I prefer martials over
but they're
spellcasters.
like martials are still like the power gap is widening, even if I didn't think it was like super wide to begin with.
Yeah.
Like, as every time a book comes out, a wizard gets more powerful or versatile, and a champion fighter, if they're lucky, will get a feat that specifically tailors to one build, maybe.
We got some questions in the chat. Does Eric Framinis, does the Magic the Gathering lore better align to the UA content or the published content?
I am not the person to ask on that.
Okay, this
I don't know.
This is a question directed pretty much at me. I'm gonna say the UA had some interesting ideas, but since they were trying to instill one idea to fit multiple classes, it cut a lot of content, while the published lore or the published content allows you to actually take what's already there and kind of mix it in there to get the different aspects of the lore bits if you're trying to play up. So like with the stuff that's printed that will be in print, for example, you want to play a Lorehold sort of Indiana Jones character. Well, you can just take Rogue or Artificer or Bard and then just slap on the Lorehold stuff onto it, and you pretty much have that covered. Or if you want to be the book nerd, that's more about the history and studying the history of the settings and stuff. Well, you can slap Lorehold onto Order Scribe's Wizard or Lore Bard or any other studious sort of character or class that can fit that. So there were strengths to both, but I actually will say this heavily leans better for the printed stuff. Second question, we got this one's for you. Hi Bard, this is from Elion Mars. You said you don't know or care for MTG lore. When you were coming up with Eberron Academies, did you go mechanics first to think about Eberron's lore and fit around that?
I mostly went lore first, because there are very specific like institutions for the setting of Eberron, and I'm like, oh, well, it kind of feels natural that like all these places would have like their own formalized skill sets, and it feels natural in my mind at least that like a ranger and an artificer going to the same school to learn the same skills would express those differently, but like still have the same skills for the most part. So I went lore first, and then saw if I could actually build a decent concept around it. But there were some things like the wand slinger where I'm like, okay, but what if it was a gun that was a wand, and warlocks could use it as a focus, and rangers could use it as a ranged weapon.
Yeah,
a gun, not gun, rather.
Yeah, and I actually I was talking to Yuke before the stream started. The Wand Slinger and that supplement is probably my favorite in there. No offense to anybody else. It's just I love the whole aesthetic of pretty much this post-war cowboy-esque Wand Slinger that's traveling throughout the Corvair, kind of just like looking for work, mercenary. Pretty sweet, and it fits. Let's see if we got any more questions. I got one. Since we are looking at the Strix-Classes now, which option out of all the ones presented stood out for you and actually worked? And you're sadly about not making it in print.
Ooh, that's a tough one. I think. I think it was Witherbloom, to be honest. Hold on, my memory's foggy on it, but like, I think the harm heal dichotomy works pretty well for druid and warlock. I think that was a very interesting idea. The Witherbloom brew, is a bit strange, but it also kind of feels like a do-over on the Alchemist, which is part of why I wanted this to be mapped onto Artificer as well. Because like the Alchemist is probably my favorite bad class.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I played it in the Curse of Strahd game, and I was
Ooh.
trying to make it work. Really, I did, but it's rough. I can
Uh,
use this. I can use a spell slot to do 0.5 extra healing compared to a cure wounds that I already know. Cool, thanks. Okay, sure.
yeah.
I can.
I had a buddy was playing that for an Eberron game for or another Silver Flame. Well, our group really likes Silver Flame for some reason, but we played another one that was like a little mini campaign, and yeah, he struggled with the Alchemist for the exact same reason you stated.
Yeah, I'd be less down on it if it like let me like had mechanics that let me roll over my spell slots from the previous day, like Goodberry, where it like encouraged me to like be conservative with spell slots and then use them later on.
Okay, yeah,
But there's not that either.
yeah,
I mean, not much. So like, yeah, it's a bit of a monkey's paw. I think the toxifying one
yeah. I have
is
everything pulled up.
probably. Oh, it's a 2d6 poison damage and must succeed on
Oh,
a
here we
saving
go.
throw against your spell save DC or be poisoned for a minute.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh yeah, this could have just been like that could have just been like how poisoner kits worked. Like completely.
Really? Okay, I can see that, and that actually make them feel useful.
Yeah, like the poisoner feat like has it so that they had to fail a con save and then take the damage, I think. And it stays at DC 14, and I'm like, okay. But what about when what about when I'm not fighting goblins?
Yeah.
And it's like, shouldn't it scale with your proficiency bonus? Shouldn't it scale with your intelligence modifier? Shouldn't it do anything to keep up? It's a feat. And feats are in theory static, and like unless you have a really nice DM that'll let you respec a character, it's
Yeah.
like okay, I'm stuck with this forever.
Yeah. Oh, what's it called? Indestructible Boy saying, "Cough, cough. Mage hand presses alchemist. Cough, cough."
I've been meaning to read that.
Yeah. I'm not. I'm familiar with Mage Hand Press, just not with their alchemist. But I wouldn't put it past them to have something a little something stronger and a lot more well rounded than the official alchemist. Yeah, it's rough. Um, I was even trying to get my buddy who was playing that and be like, "Hey, you might want to switch. There's a whole other set of options that work." But no, he wanted to keep with his little dwarf that he had going on.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah. All right. So obviously, this UA had a ton of features that were super overpowered, and then a lot of them that were underpowered, and especially when they were in collection with each other. My pick for the most underpowered was Prismari because it just didn't work. Like for me, it's like
Oh, I don't even remember how that one worked. It was like
yeah.
you dashed around
Yeah, so
or
there,
something.
yeah, the main mechanic was kinetic artistry. You pretty much as a bonus action you can dash, and off of the dash, you got to choose one of the effects based off of the different elements. But my big concern was obviously the classes that were capable of this was sorcerer, wizard, and druid. Out of all those three, the druid was the only one that would actually be somewhat okay with being able to dash away because they might have a decent enough AC to withstand opportunity attacks, either dodge them a
Oh yeah.
bit. While the sorcerer and wizard, oh no, like you're in the close range, you're screwed, bud. Like
I mean, it's a good get off me tool, I suppose.
yeah, but the only one that lets you not provoke opportunity attacks was the Thunderlight Jaunt, but that's all it did.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah,
Huh.
yeah. It says
Okay.
Thunderlight Jaunt. You take on a nimble lightning form until the end of your turn. You can move through the space of other creatures, and you do not provoke opportunity attacks. If you end your turn inside a creature space, you are pushed into the nearest unoccupied space.
Okay. Huh. I guess I like retconned in my brain that like all these avoided opportunity attacks in general with your dash.
Oh no, that
Um
yeah, and that
okay, so that That comes separate. Okay, jeez.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing. If that would have they would have just tacked that on, this would have been a much more enjoyable subclass because they would have got that dancery vibe that they were trying to do. I can easily see some of these features just going into the monk and going off of a
Yeah,
step of the wind. You know, like it just yeah, it's just
yeah. More things should key off of like abilities monks already have, and I think, God, the Ascended Dragon Monk is. I don't think it's as bad as people say it is, but like, oof, that level 6 ability is like, it's not great.
yeah,
And the flavor text calls it soaring on draconic wings,
yeah,
and it's an anime jump.
yeah,
It's flight for 6 seconds is not flight. That's an anime jump.
yeah,
Like that is, it's objectively not a jump or not flight.
yeah. What's it called? Yeah,
Falling with style.
yeah. The I was I had the initial like gut shot reaction that a lot of people had with the Ascended Dragon Monk. We're like, oh, they nerfed my boy. But then after kind of sitting down and looking at it and actually reading it, it's not as bad as it is, but it's not as good as it was either.
Yeah, I actually I got hired to revise the Sun Soul, and as I was redesigning stuff, I'm like, oh, what I want is the Dragon Monk.
Yeah,
In this case, um, I made it different enough, I think, but like a lot of those things were like, oh yeah, a cone of radiant damage, kind of like this in place of an attack. That'd be cool. And so it has some similarities to the
yeah.
Dragon Monk. Um, yeah.
Thanks for stopping by,
Well,
Eric. Keep plugging away
yeah.
those Strixhaven the videos. They're kicking ass, man. Let's see. I'm reading the chat
Oh
right
yeah, he's
now.
still at it.
Yeah, he's still at it. If you guys are wanting to see all the most recent Strixhaven stuff, the book drops Tuesday, but Eric's been pumping away at everything in the book. Go check out Fry Minis. He's approaching a 3K sub. So if you haven't subbed to him, go over there and drop him a sub. Get him to that big number. Let's see. Looking at the chat. Gosh, if only someone made an entire class around dancer archetype. Yeah, I wonder who.
Yeah, too bad that doesn't exist.
Yeah. um, also, yeah, if you want to check out a dancer, go to DMsGuild. Go find Taryn, aka Indestructible Boy's dancer class, and also I say go check out his merchant too, and go support him there. Both classes are gonna fit very certain niches that aren't actually supported in official 5th edition content right now.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
Prismari feels like it got turned into a Chardalon Stride from Dragon UA, but I don't remember if that came first.
yeah, I think I want to say the dragon stuff. All the spells were a few months before because they kind of like hit us like back to back with some UAs. I believe it was the dragon ones, and then eventually we got the Strixhaven ones after they announced all the books.
Yeah, I do wish they kept the name just Flame Stride. They didn't really need to name it after somebody. I think that part's silly, but like, it kind of does fulfill that fantasy of zooming by people and burning them.
Yeah. All right. So looking at this, obviously with the week one, I was saying Prismari. Which out of all these features, out of any of the classes, or is like the big red flag that you're happy it just is not in print? Or actually, just in case you will say Silvery Barbs are made it to print and shouldn't have.
I was actually kind of sort of fine with it as a subclass because they're not tied to first level spells. And you can't use the feature until you finish. Oh, okay. It's until you finish a long rest or spend a spell slot to use again. God.
Yeah,
I saw the can't use it until you finish a long rest thing, and then I'm like, oh yeah, that's fine. Once per long rest, that's cool. Nope, you can use spell slots.
yeah, it's just
If it were using a second level spell slot or higher, I'd be fine with it because it's still locked to one specific subclass, and so you're missing out on a whole range of other options. The fact that it's on a spell means that literally any bard can take it, and that's the biggest problem for me, at least.
Yeah, because for those that may have not been seeing the discussion with the book, or maybe wanting to try to avoid spoilers, but sorry, there's going to be some spoilers about this book if you haven't noticed. Silvery Barbs is a big contention right now, is just because it is a very, very powerful spell for first level. I will admittedly say this is probably not going to be a problem at my table, just based off how we play. But in terms of the bigger picture of the game, it's problematic for the game. And if you, especially you're playing raw, if you're just playing straight out of the book, you don't homebrew too often or at all, or you're in Adventures League, this is one of those spells that it trumps pretty much every other option. And at higher levels, it doesn't fall off, which is the big scary part about this one. So yeah, Silvery Barbs. And you can also check out. There's a bunch of videos on this. Again, Indestructible Boy, another shout out. He has a video on it. Treon Monk has a video on it. I believe No Fun Allowed has a video on it, and then Buddy over Winter Wyvern also has a video on it. All detailing specific
I think
interactive.
DMs has an article about it as well.
Yeah, see, yeah, I think DM too. He did a whole chain on Twitter regarding this spell. It's I'm okay with it for my game, but it's one of those things. Mileage may vary.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things where you have to kind of agree to not be that guy.
Yeah.
I'm fine. I'm fine with like a what's it called, the Clockwork Soul Sorcerer getting armor like this, as long as both you and the DM agree, like, hey, don't abuse this, please.
Yeah.
Or like an agreement to not let it be upcast beyond 5th level.
Yeah.
For Silvery Barbs, I think I would probably just say could use this once per long rest with a spell slot, and anything beyond that is probably a bit much. You're pushing it at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's one of those things. It's like you're gonna get one of those, I think, potential nightmare scenarios where it's just unfun for players in the game, right? The closest thing I could say is like the counterspell wars. If all the spellcasters are packing counterspell, the DM is also packing spellcasters to compensate for counterspell. You get this chain of events, and Silver Barb is one of those. It's exactly that spell that's exactly like this, and on top of it, can actually trump a counterspell. of all things, too.
Oh yeah, I suppose it can.
Yeah.
It's also basically counter save, which is the part I have an issue with.
Yeah.
If they took away the save part, like, it'd probably be fine. Maybe.
Yeah.
As a 2nd level spell.
Yeah, that's why.
But I also understand their instinct to make all these spells super low level, because that's the tier of play where everybody's going to be playing.
Yeah.
And also, you don't leave half casters out in the cold, because if this is a 4th or 5th level spell, they're never gonna use it ever.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing, because we are getting into some Silver Barbs discussion. The biggest thing regarding this is I think people need to remember too is that this book and all the other setting books, their power levels are a lot higher than what they put in the standard base book. And my assumption is that they don't expect people to really be using these features too much outside of the specific setting. Obviously, that's wrong. People play however the hell they want to play. They want new player options.
I mean, that is the default assumption, though.
Yeah. So, and that's why. So it's okay to not use this book in your game or any of the options in your game. But if you are, the only big thing is just be aware that there are certain interactions that might not be fun for everybody at the table. And as long as everybody kind of talks about it, kind of really figures it out, the level of I guess abuse that everybody's kind of willing to take, you'll be fine. It's just one of these things that obviously they're pushing the direction of the game in a certain way. When it comes to like some of these more powerful player options. So my thing is just like session 0, set up your social contract with your group, figure out what exactly is going to be acceptable for everybody to have fun. Because obviously, if players are packing this, the DMs are probably going to pack this too. And while this is really a good tool for players, because player roles, Phil said this, I believe on Discord, player roles are a lot more are more important and precious, right? DM's roles not so much because the whole point is, challenge them, but you're telling a story with everybody.
Yeah. Silvery Barbs is definitely problematic, but I think the rest of the spells are for the most part pretty healthy for the game, I'd say.
Yeah.
Wither and Bloom is one of those that feels like it's treading into new design space that I don't mind at all. AoEs that are weaker but have the luxury of excluding certain people and giving some other extra effect is novel for the most part, I'd say. It's certainly like more interesting than just like a smaller, weaker circle of death or whatever.
Yeah, and I will say one thing I like about the new spells, and I'll probably follow this up next week when we have the discussion on the book itself. I like that there's this hint of, and this is strictly taken from Magic, that there's this duality in some of these spells. Silver Barb's included. It has the idea of like I hurt the enemy to help my allies, and Wither and Bloom is the same exact thing, and that's one of the flavor wins I could say that, despite the effects or that they're pulling from Magic, that I'm happy they did. Okay, we got some heated discussion in the chat regarding Silver Barbs. So let's go. And then I got a couple more questions before we wrap up. Karen said, I've legitimately never seen anything as undervalued as Silvery Barbs without the second paragraph. It's still third level, slot worthy. With it, it's likely fourth. Summer said, Order Domain Cleric also lets your ally attack when you target them for a spell, and it's first level, so Strixhaven issue if you can get it, and which works really well with Silvery Barbs. Tyler?
Oh yeah.
He disagrees with us. Silver Barbs is a blue deck card for Magic the Gathering. You have to be smart when you bring it into play. Oh yeah, I don't disagree with you there. It is a very very it feels like a blue spell, even though it's supposed to be flavored as a white black spell, but it's very much a disruptive sort of spell. And yeah, I agree with you. If a character can use it, the DM can use it. I think the point I was trying to make was, even though you both have the options, DMs have way more options than the players to mess with action economy and stuff.
I wonder if it would have been like a little less polarizing had it been like a 10-foot range. Part of me is thinking like this is a bit like a it's like in theory supposed to be like one of those smart like aha, you've activated my trap card sort of things,
Yeah.
but it's like it's so spammable, yeah. So it's like you'd have to like plan ahead and like intentionally put yourself in close to harm's way.
Yeah.
Would that make it better? I don't know.
Maybe actually, just because you put yourself in harm's way, so that does some other things where like okay, the enemy could retaliate on you and then target you for doing that. Just depending on how the DM plays the enemy, like your creatures. Like if I know if I was DMing and then my players are using this, the enemy would probably immediately go after them and just try to target them completely for disrupting them. Especially if it's like a key spell or something. But Terrence kind of saying a lot of what I was trying to reiterate was that the spell, I wouldn't say it like he's saying it's intrinsically anti-fun and spammable. I'd say
I agree.
It is one of these spells that, while good for players on a mechanical level, in terms of overall table gameplay, your mileage is going to vary. So optimizers are already looking at this thing and like some of them see gold, and for me at my table, it's not that problematic. But also my players don't play in a way that's tries to be too disruptive of everybody's fun. So it really just depends.
I actually had. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
I actually had a moment in we were playing a Dragon Ball tabletop RPG, which is actually where I got my start designing. It's not one that I made entirely. I was making homebrew stuff,
Oh.
But I ended up running an encounter where one of the guys was at my table was trying to stealth around, and he's like, "Oh, I rolled a 10, which is it's a D10 system, so it's like it was a crit." And like I'm like, no, you rolled a 2. And he's like, what the fuck? And I'm like, because this guy has he basically had like the equivalent of like a portent die
Oh,
that
okay.
let you just replace a die with what he rolled earlier that day. And like it got legitimately heated. Like,
Oh
and
man.
I regret how that turned out. I ended up walking back on that, like, okay, yeah, that is like dickish game design.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I'm like, you know what? Yeah, that's on me. That's just anti-fun for me to just say no. Your die is a 2,
Yeah. And
and
I
yeah,
and I think
that's what Silvery Barbs is.
yeah, and exactly that's just what that's what it is. And for as a player tool, understandable, right? Because again, player roles are more important. But obviously, if the DM gets this and the DM's going to use it, how fun is that going to be for you? And how fun is it going to be for your table to constantly just disrupting everything? You're going to prolong, most likely, will prolong combat for no reason. Um, doing this, I can understand using silver barbs in a very clutch situation. The same thing as a counter spell. But again, it's these two spells are very similar in what they're supposed to do. They're very disruptive if done in a certain way, and as Silvery Barbs is more disruptive just because it's a first level spell and it covers
Yeah.
way more. All right, I got a few more questions. I'm gonna answer a question from the chat. This is more of a character build game discussion question. I'm a Sorlock in my current campaign, but a lot of people quit with only 2 of us left. Should I use the infamous coffee lock to pick up the slack, or keep on going with my OG plan? Um, Depends. If the DM has no intentions of like scaling the game to the 2 players, then like I would say, yeah, you might want to go into the optimized route and sort of play a more powerful build so you cover more ground. But if not, stick with what you guys are having fun with. Like if you don't see the difficulty changing with the 2, or like if you see the difficulty paring down to where for specifically for 2 players, just pick what you want. That means the DM's considering the fact that there's only 2 players and it's more in there to have a narrative experience.
Yeah, you could always just pick up like a sidekick as well.
Yeah,
If they don't want to design around two players, then like just like a warrior sidekick, or like just a Beastmaster Ranger companion, or yeah, you don't have to like specifically just like load up on power, especially if that's going to be at the expense of your other player at the table. But I don't think that's what you're planning on doing anyway.
yeah, or at least or at the expense of your own character story you're trying to develop with your game too. Yeah. So
Yeah.
all right, so Phil, I saw he managed to pop in a little late, but he submitted some questions. I also have Dark Abyss Keeper. He also submitted questions over on the Discord. Um, Again, anybody wants to join the Discord, I have a link in the description below. My Discord is pretty chill. We got some people doing some homebrew. I think right now we're talking about the new Spider-Man trailer that just popped out for across the Spider-Verse, which was pretty sweet. Hey, what's going on, man?
Oh yeah.
Thank you for coming by. So yeah, so Phil's first question, he had like 2 questions. Do you think the Strixhaven backgrounds and variant magic initiate feats presented in he acronym Strixhaven Curriculum of Chaos is the end of the Strix-Class conversation with WotC? And or if not, how do you think WotC may approach this design space differently from what you've done with the Academies of Eberron supplement?
Well, that's a good one. I think I'm fairly certain that this idea is dead in the water. This kind of feels like this is one of very few places where this feels like a natural place to put it. Because like if you're doing a Strixhaven adventure and like 2 people are in the same school, it felt different. Like
Yeah,
a bard doing Lorehold and a wizard doing Lorehold are getting their features at different levels with different additional spells and different considerations. So like you're getting the same subclass, but you're still feeling different-ish. I can't imagine them actually revisiting this concept. Um, So I think it's dead in the water. I think after Academies of Eberron addendum, I'm probably going to put the concept to bed for a little bit before coming back to it because I feel like I'm running out of ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely not an easy one to do.
Somebody in
For
the
sure.
chat had a follow up question. Do you think they want to push the Strix-Classes design to a multiverse thing? I could see that working, but it's a bit of a reach.
I could maybe see that. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. That's a very disappointing answer, but I think it's definitely possible, but it's also possible that they revive prestige classes,
Actually,
which
that's
probably won't happen as well.
yeah, and that's what Indestructible Boy just said too. I would have been happier with prestige classes. I like the idea of
Yeah, this could have been a prestige
yeah,
class.
I like the idea of the prestige class. I'm kind of sad they didn't continue it with after the Runescribe. Um, but yeah, the whole idea of like this as long as you meet certain requirements to kind of lean into a different sort of flavor or expand on your flavor, I would have loved to see them kind of expand on how they would adapt that to fifth edition.
Yeah, the problem with prestige classes is like a lot of classes key off of different ability scores,
Yeah,
so I don't know how you make those like kind of agnostic nowadays.
yeah.
I guess you just choose an ability score before you take the class. I don't know.
Maybe what they're kind of doing with the feats. You can pick up that feat, but you have to choose the core ability score. I could see them kind of like going
Yeah,
that route. SWAT cat
yeah,
with the
yeah. These could have.
Step Brothers reference right here.
Oh,
Yeah.
I haven't seen that movie in a
Oh.
million years. This could have been an
Yeah,
email.
okay, I'm just reading that right now. Ukulele Bard saying this could have been a prestige class in the exact same tone as this could have been an email. Might be my favorite part of the stream.
Okay. I did not even mean it that way. Goddamn. Okay, a lot of things could have been an email though.
Yeah, yeah,
For real. Also, a lot of phone calls could have been a text.
yeah.
Um,
All right, I got a couple more questions. Another one from Phil. Do you think the Academies of Eberron audience engagement has been strong enough to encourage similar efforts for other campaign settings or establish in-game organizations? Or is this an exotic design space that the Strix classes hold too niche to be viable without further support from WotC publications?
ooh, that's a tough
Yeah.
one. I I've already seen chatter of people following in the Strixhaven UA's footsteps after I already stepped into that space. I'm definitely no pioneer of it, obviously. But I think I could totally see more people executing on it. Um, I would like to see more of it. I know Cassandra Ice Queer actually mentioned that she has interest in, or not that she has interest, but like she liked the idea. So I could potentially see her maybe doing it, but I can't think of like any setting that like very specifically feels like it needs them
I'm thinking for my
aside from Eberron.
yeah.
To be honest.
Yeah, I think Eberron for the non-MTG settings is a perfect place for it, just because there's a lot of broader concepts and organizations that really fit that can actually use that niche, like Wandslinger. Like you said before stream, Keith Baker with a Wandslinger taking after the Warlock sort of design generally fits, but also how you included the Ranger into the Wandslinger and your supplement too is like it naturally just fit, and it fits with the different factions in this setting that have different people that do the same concept but in a different way based off of
Yeah.
how the nations are set up in their military, which I thought was like
Yeah,
perfect.
funny you mentioned that because like around the same time Nathan Doyle of Deficit Dragons actually had had come up with his own idea for the Wandslinger, but he made it 5 separate classes,
Oh dang.
one for each nation, and I think mine's definitely more generalist, but his has like very very hyper specific to each nation, where it's like, oh, this one gets a horse,
Yeah.
and this one gets. I'm drawing a blank, but it was a super cool idea. But I think like expanded spell lists being variable, the genie warlock,
Yeah.
and what else am I thinking of? There's other subclasses that do that too. I guess like Divine Soul Sorcerer has it sort of. But that alone is enough to like create a decent amount of variety between all of them. Like, which nation do you choose? If the first level spells are both really good, but the second level spells, one of them is mediocre, but the other one is really good. But
Yeah.
the third level spells, it's the other way around.
Yeah.
That creates some interesting choices, I think.
Yeah.
I try not to make one like by far the biggest winner, but that's also very very difficult to do when you're trying to make these in theme.
In theme, yeah. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I could see
Like
that.
if Fireball's in theme for one, that doesn't necessarily mean I should include it because
Yeah.
like if the rest of the third level spells are bad, like
Yeah.
stuff like that.
I agree. I'm going off the top of my head. What other settings? For me, it's like Forgotten Realms doesn't. I know there's. I'm not too steeped in Forgotten Realms lore, but I'm pretty sure it could be applied if you're really, really into the lore.
Probably Ravnica, come to think of it.
But yeah,
I don't know much about it, but it sounds Eberron
Ravnica,
adjacent.
yeah,
Sort
a
of.
lot of the Magic the Gathering settings that they printed so far, Ravnica would be perfect having a Strix-Class for any of the guilds.
Yeah, that's my thought.
Yeah, it would have been really, really sweet. Theros too, based off the gods. You're a follower, and it would be really, really strict that you're a follower of the god. But I think the piety system did a better job of handling that. But yeah, Ravnica I think is another perfect fit. Oh, another question from the chat. Okay, this was a fun one. If you were to have, this is from Summer. If you were to have any of the Strixhaven mascots as a familiar, which would you choose and why? I personally like the pests. Are you familiar with the mascots?
Just vaguely. I saw the Treant Monk video on it. If we're talking like in real life, I think having the weird ball of math sounds
Oh
very
yeah.
fun. Um, the what is it called? The Quandrix one.
The
The
fractals.
prismatic fractal. Yeah, that one feels very like eldritch and unknowable.
Yeah.
in an interesting way. I like personally visualize it as like a ball of cracked mirrors folding in on itself over
Oh
and
yeah.
over again. Um, I'm sure there's an illustration, but I don't want to see it because I like the image in my head better.
Oh yeah. No, your image is a lot more evocative. The stuff that they have on the for the card art is it's like these geometric shapes that take the form of animals of various sizes. That's pretty much what a lot of the
Oh,
fractals
okay.
are. Yeah. But no. Yeah. But pretty much I believe the lore behind that is like the Quandrix mage pretty much determines its shape. So they can make it whatever it is. Mine would be Lorehold. I would want my little golem spirit. They have a vast amount of history that I could grab from, since they were a former living person. So that would be interesting to
See,
have around me.
that part weirds me out because like that's a person
Yeah,
in a statuette or whatever,
yeah,
and that kind of feels like that feels. I don't want to say unethical, but like maybe.
right. But yeah, well, I think the lore behind that one is that it's like a. That's why like the warlock was included in this one because they build some sort of relationship. The statue only comes into the spirit only embodies the statue when it's willing. It's not a forced thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
All
Yeah,
right.
and then I retract that.
Yeah. No, but yeah.
Still, giving a warlock a pet at level 1 is
Yeah.
problematic in a lot of ways. I'm a giant hypocrite because for Galder's Gazetteer, the that book on Kickstarter, or that was on Kickstarter, it's
Yeah.
out now, and I ended up making a somebody requested an Eidolon Warlock, and I'm I'm like frantically googling like what the heck is an eidolon?
Oh
And I'm
yeah.
like, oh, okay. So this is JoJo Warlock. We'll see how this goes.
Yeah.
Um,
All right, I got
and it was very, very, very stressful to figure out
I got
how
it.
how to make that work.
Yeah, I can imagine. I was poking around in Aaron's Indestructible Boys Discord because I was kind of working on my own. I was trying to work on a summoner class, but I ended up just porting it over to a subclass for the wizard. I think I always have something a skeleton, and that was my big concern: is how do you do a give a class a pet at level 1, and what were the big drawbacks you can give to balance it out. Um, so yeah, that I can understand trying to play around with the that balance.
Yeah, I actually toyed around with the idea of making a 2/3 caster for Eberron again.
Mhm.
That is literally just the binding as a concept, elemental binding, and just like summoning various elementals to do stuff. But I ended up reusing a lot of those design concepts for the conduit class for the Comets and Cockpits Kickstarter.
Mhm.
So hopefully that'll be out in like I don't know, January or
Okay.
something. I didn't actually use any of the summoning concepts that I used in it, um, but I still kept like the bones of the 2/3 casting and the and like the runes idea. But I ended up folding that into a subclass.
Nice. Tila has a question for us. Were you guys unhappy about the lack of dragon subclasses in the Fizzban book?
Yes,
I wholeheartedly agree.
yes.
Yes.
It's right there.
Yeah.
It's right there.
And the thing is, Jeremy Crawford said this in with Todd Kendrick. They had an interview saying, and he said, "Yes, we knew that there was a demand for dragon subclasses, but we only gave you guys two, and we just
Mhm.
decided to give you feats compensate." And I was just like, "Yeah, but if you know your player base wants a certain thing, just do it. Like you're gonna sell the book. Like you're gonna sell the book. If they would have just gave one class, one subclass, or even like a few of them, just more subclasses in there. Like you said earlier, the Dragon Patron Warlock would have been perfect. A rework of the Dragon
Yeah,
Sorcerer in there, and another martial dragon, maybe or for a paladin or for a fighter or even a barbarian. I would have liked to see. Uh, would have been really really
I feel
sweet.
like they could have just made a. They could have done like what the Skag did and just had added additional options to the Way of the Beast
Okay,
and just
yeah,
had those be dragon options.
that would have been sweet. Uh,
Um, but for now, you can just like reflavor the claws as like dragon stuff, but like that's not the same.
yeah. Yeah, and if you guys are needing ideas for reflavoring of classes for dragon options, I actually did a live stream around the time Fizzband came out, so you can go find that on the page and go through the live streams. I did a whole stream just going over each class and which subclasses fit and how you can reflavor them. And some of the chat also had some really great ideas also. So, okay, we got one more question. I'm looking at the time right now. This was from Dark Abyss Keeper from the Discord. He's asked, one of the major criticisms from the community for this style of subclass was the way they interacted with the classes differently. Even when classes got the same number of class features, the distribution of those features through the levels could vastly differ between classes. In some cases, the same features might come online in entirely different tiers of play. Did you feel this tension in your design process? And if so, how did you work around it?
Ooh, that's a really really good question. Um, so one, I'm sorry. Could you post the question somewhere just so I
Yeah, yeah.
can like break this down? Um,
I will. There we go.
oh, perfect. Okay, so when some classes got the same number of class features, the distribution of those features are vastly different. So personally, for the most part, I was like, most of that feels okay. Like, may with the exception of like cleric, a lot of them get them at like similar-ish levels. Um, like so, if a fighter and a rogue are uh are using the same subclass, they both get theirs at 3, and then one of them gets theirs at 7 and one at 9.
Yeah.
But like the rogue is getting like good stuff at level 7, at least if I recall correctly. I'm pretty sure that's the level they get evasion.
Yeah.
So like, there are some pain points to be in mind of, but I was pretty much okay with it as long as there weren't massive gaps in, which is mostly just cleric, because cleric is weird.
Yeah.
So like, there's a lot of classes that get theirs at 1, and then ones that get it at 2. That's not a huge difference. So I'm for the most part okay with those. But if two classes have such a massive gap between them, if one is getting a feature at 5 and the other's getting it at 9, then we might have a problem.
Yeah.
And then I would just avoid using those classes together. And I would probably just do like Sorcerer Warlock or whatever.
Yeah.
It's a very, very case by case thing. Does that answer the question well? I think I did.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. Yeah, looking over at the supplement, I think you nailed it. I think there were some options there too that just surprised me, and then after seeing how they integrated, I was like, yeah, this works. And yeah, so you and the other designers on Academies of Eberron did an amazing job on that. I'm hoping my group actually gets into Eberron again, and I'm gonna throw this supplement at them, and maybe I can convince some of them to use it alongside me. Yeah, I'm definitely playing a Wandslinger sometime in the future.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I just wanna thank like the rest of the team on Academies of Eberron. So RX Maraki and Joseph Mihan and Bum Lee. And then for Addendum that's coming out next week, Sabriel Maston. They're all like really talented people, so hopefully everybody checks out their stuff.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm seeing the time. My back. I've been nursing a back injury, guys, for this last week. So my threshold on my back is starting to give out a little bit. Again, thank you for coming on. I'd love to have you back on again. This was awesome. This was a lot of fun. Where
a great time.
Where can everybody find you at?
I think my Twitter's in the description.
Yes.
And my DMsGuild are there in the description as well. You can probably find me on the I think Twitter's the best place to reach me, I'd say. Yeah, that's all I got, really.
yeah. So go ahead and follow him on Twitter. The link to this is in the description below, and also go if your guys are going to be playing Eberron. There's a wealth of Eberron content, really good Eberron content coming out. It's easily one of my favorite D&D settings. And you guys are looking to play some of the
really, really active server as well. So.
Yeah. So definitely go check it out. Pick it up. There's a link in the description. I believe it is. What kind of link is it? I'm drawing a blank right now, but yeah, definitely go get it, pick it up, support the designers on this one. It was a really good. It's a really fun and good supplement. I really enjoyed it. Again, thank you for coming.
No problem.
And also this week, I dropped another character build for Strixhaven. The way I'm covering Strixhaven this book this time is I'm just giving you different character builds so that once you grab the book, you can just pick one and you're good to go. So this week I dropped one for Silverquill, which was a Celestial Patron Warlock build for them. So
love that one.
Yeah, so definitely go check it out. That one, I was very surprised. People were really receptive of it. When I was building it, I'm like, man, I don't know if I would play this, but this, I guess, I just went with it. Next week I will drop the final one, which will be Witherbloom, and then on I believe on next Sunday we're going to be discussing and reviewing the Strixhaven book. So definitely come by and the same time, 11 a.m. PST. I'm still trying to figure out which guests are coming in. Maybe Eric Prime Minis, just because he's had the book for a week, and he's never not bored of talking about. But again, thank you guys for showing up. Thank you guys for supporting. You can catch me at all my usual socials, and then if you want to join Dungeoneer's Pack community, go ahead and just jump in the Discord. I'm fairly active in there. We got a nice, active, friendly community there. Also, homebrewing their own stuff. Again, we're talking about Spider-Man right now. We're super hyped for this new movie, and just generally like talking about D&D. So again, you thank you for coming in, and till next time, guys. You guys have a good one.
See ya.
They cannot hear. Yeah, they cannot hear. Hold on, they can hear me.